And welcome to the Global Youth Entrepreneurship Festival. Sort of, almost. At least at the time of recording this, there was 12 days, 18 hours, and 59 minutes to go until the festival. By the time you're consuming this, it's probably a lot closer. And I am coming to you with the intention of creating a little bit of connection before content, but also setting expectations for what this festival will look like and be like, so that when you click the link to jump into Zoom Town in this pixelated land that we've all been living in, you've got some expectations, and hopefully also you feel excited about this not being just like every other virtual meeting, event, etc. that you've been to. YBI chose the name festival very intentionally. It's not a conference. And so there's a huge focus on your contribution and connection in this space. And so if you were to attend and prioritize one session from the entire agenda, I am here to point you toward the very first day. Let's scroll down and actually see it. The very first day, the very first thing, this lovely little piece called the Virtual Connection Lab with Chad Littlefield. I am Chad. I will be facilitating us through this really fun process in Zoom that will utilize breakouts, allow us to connect, learn from each other in a way that you likely have not engaged virtually over time. And we're going to feed two birds with one worm by doing this. One, you're going to see a whole bunch of virtual engagement techniques which you can steal and adapt and utilize in your own programs and in your own contexts, and that'll be really useful. But maybe even more importantly, you will get to connect and share brains with people that you otherwise have not been able to in quite a long while. And so the gift of being connected and being together is why we show up to events, right? And yet virtually, so often we over prioritize content and under prioritize connection. And that is exactly why I'm working with YBI in the very first session to prioritize connection, create that connection before content. Couple little technical notes of expectation. When you jump in, plan to come video ready. Can you imagine if I was recording this whole video and all you saw was this? Right? There's just a certain level of life that happens when you can see somebody else. Now, come video ready, but you won't necessarily have your video on the entire time, right? Sometimes when somebody's sharing a piece of content, it doesn't make sense to watch somebody else picking their nose while that content's happening. But come video ready, be in a space that, to the best of your ability, it'll serve you much more if you are able to carve out as much present time as possible. And so I know that we all have way too much to do in too little time, and blocking out this much time is an intense thing. And when you've got kids running around behind you or going to virtual school or whatever else might be happening in your corner of the world, when that's all happening, it's hard to get really focused and present. And yet, being as present as possible and as engaged as possible, you'll get so much more out of this. My intention is for you to leave my session, and my hope is that you leave the entire festival feeling refueled and energized by the connections you've made. Little technical things. Update Zoom to the newest version, whether you use Zoom every day or this is going to be one of your first times because you usually use a different platform. Download Zoom to your computer. It's so much more reliable than just using the web link. So download it. Make sure it's updated to the newest version. When you have it updated to the newest version, you can do all sorts of very cool and exciting things to turn Zoom from 2D into 3D. And so I very simply access this from going to get video filters. And so would love for you to show up filters. What is a festival without some disguises and other things? So we may utilize these in, maybe playful, but also purposeful ways throughout. So bring that. And then if you're feeling like an overachiever, I would invite you to create a virtual background that would allow you to share something that's a little bit more, share something that's a little bit more personal to you. So create a virtual background or virtual backgrounds on Zoom is a phenomenal way to temporarily put up a background to share a little piece of context. So this is my little guy. His name is Otto. He was born on January 1st, 2020. What a year to be born in. And there's some connection made, right? Being virtual is not the same as being in person. It's just not. And it probably never will be. but there are things that we can do virtually that we can't do as well in person. And so that's what my session will focus on. Can't wait for you to take away lots of tips and lots of connections. See you in cyberspace soon. Cheers.